When we listen to music, what is more important? Is it who created the music, or is it the music itself and the feelings it invokes within us? Can music truly be owned? And if so, once released out into the world, what is the creator's goal in doing so? Is it so they can be known and praised for having brought it into existence, or to garnish profit from it? Or is it for the sole purpose of enjoyment for all who experience it? Maybe it's another thing entirely. Regardless of what it is for you personally, I think it brings up a very important thought. The motivation for creating and listening to music and art is different for us all. If you are just creating music so you can show off your talents, make a name for yourself, and subsequently create a legacy, there is nothing inherently wrong with this. I think it's very natural for us all to want to gain prestige and notoriety for our deeds. I think many don't even fully realize it. It's not necessarily a bad thing to have this motive in creating art, but I think there are more meaningful ways to share art with our audiences. But before I continue with that thought, I think it's also imperative that I play devil's advocate. I appreciate exploring other ideas and thought processes, and so I'll also mention that there might be a lot more to it than just one's ego and desire to be credited for their work. Perhaps an artist created something, a piece that was very intimately connected with them, a work that wouldn't have come to fruition without some deep levels of genuine catharsis or life experiences. And because of this, it was more than just a piece of art to them. It was a piece of themselves. I can perhaps understand why they would be sensitive if that art was bastardized or treated in a way that they didn't approve of. I can see why they wouldn't appreciate that. It's not all black and white. Everyone has different ways of thinking, and I can acknowledge this. So before I continued, I wanted to make sure to mention this and to show some respect to differing views. I think that the moment you choose to release your art off into the world, it is no longer solely yours. It belongs to the world, and the world can do what they will with it. And you must learn to accept that. It's a big pill to swallow for some, but ultimately I believe it to be true. I suppose there is copyright, however. I would say in most cases that won't save your art indefinitely. If you create something and it's very special to you and you don't want it vandalized or bastardized, keep it locked away for only yourself to experience. For the moment you choose to release it to the masses, it ceases to be yours forever. I'm not going to talk too much about Vaporwave and Plunderphonics, but they are both relevant to Barber beats in many ways, and without their existence, Barber beats would never have began. To begin, we will start with Plunderphonics, because it's the older term between the two. The term was coined by the composer John Oswald in his essay Plunderphonics, or Audio Piracy as a Compositional Prerogative, in 1985. The process of sampling other sources is found in various genres, notably hip-hop and especially turntablism. But in plunderphonic works, the sampled material is often the only sound used. These samples are usually uncleared and sometimes result in legal action being taken due to copyright infringement. Some plunderphonic artists use their work to protest what they consider to be overly restrictive copyright laws. Many plunderphonic artists claim their use of other artists' materials falls under the fair use doctrine. Development of the process is when creative musicians plunder an original track and overlay new material and sounds over it until the original music is masked and then removed, though often using scales and beats. It is a studio-based technique used by such groups as the American experimental band, The Residents, who used Beatles tracks, and more notably, the Avalanches, who in their album Since I Left You had 3,500 samples contained within it, averaging close to 200 different samples in each track. Another huge genre that has incorporated plunderphonics into its arsenal would be hip-hop, usually chopping existing music up and mixing it into the composition style of beats. Whether that be instrumental or for rappers to rap over, DJ Shadow would be a big proponent of the instrumental style, but it would also be done by rappers like the often memed about Vanilla Ice when his sampling of Under Pressure by David Bowie and Queen who had not received any credit or royalties until after it became a hit. Now that's all I'm going to say about Plunderphonics. Feel free to look into it more if you are interested. Now let's move on to the more relevant genre, Vaporwave. Yes, Vaporwave, a subgenre of chillwave that began on the internet between roughly 2009 to around 2012. The oldest known record of it being 10trixpointnever's Nobody Here, sampled from Chris de Burgh's The Lady in Red, under the moniker Chuck Person, or initially on YouTube as Sunset Corp. The track features a chopped, slowed down, repeated loop of one of the song's verses, drenched in reverb, delay, and other effects. It creates a somewhat haunting but captivating, soothing, and serene feeling. It just keeps going, saying, "There's nobody here, there's nobody here," until the track ends. Chuck Person's Echo Jams Volume 1, where the track is featured, is often credited as the first Vaporwave release, even if it wasn't fully intentional, and Daniel Lopatin, aka 10trixpointnever, has stated that it was just him having a laugh and playing around. When I first discovered Vaporwave, I was admittedly obsessed with it. Being an early 90s kid who grew up and lived through many of the aesthetics that the genre was known to exhibit, to say it made me feel nostalgic would be an absolute understatement. Eventually, more artists would inevitably make themselves known. Ramona Xavier, aka Vectroid, would go on to release the infamous Floral Shop under the guise Macintosh Plus. The album is often recognized as the official tipping point of Vaporwave's thematic signatures, things like Roman busts, pink, cyan, and otherwise neon colors, Japanese track titles, tropical landscapes, etc. The album is considered the quintessential zeitgeist of Vaporwave, and is more so credited as the first release despite Echo Jams being the true predecessor. The most well-known track of the album, Lisa Frank 420 Gendai no Compute, or Lisa Frank 420 Modern Computing, would be the classic anthem and literal poster song of Vaporwave. Originally a Diana Ross song, called It's Your Move, Macintosh Plus chopped it and slowed it down to create a completely new vibe and experience. Like Plunderphonics, this was the philosophy of the genre, to repurpose old music and make something new. Other honorable mentions would be Far Side Virtual by James Ferraro, Hit Vibes by St. Pepsi, and later on, after some progression and changes, Blank Banshee Zero by Blank Banshee, and Virtua.zip by Esprit, aka George Clanton. Now, there are literally thousands of other things I could mention about Vaporwave, but I'd like to move on to the main topic of this feature. So I highly recommend checking out Wosex's documentary, now re-uploaded by another channel if you're interested in learning more. He did, in my opinion, one of the greatest deep dives into the genre and its history, and I owe a lot of my own knowledge about it from that video. I will leave a link in the description below. Now, on to the main topic of this video, the music genre called Barber beats, or to begin, the person who would be the reluctant godfather of the genre. Andre Maximilian, or as he is best known as Haircuts for Men, would begin releasing music sometime between September 2014 to December 2014. Honestly, I can't be 100% positive about this, but that was the oldest release I could find of his. And knowing him, he may have had another dozen or so albums fly under the radar before this. Either way, his oldest release I could find was Episode 1, or Episode 01. It's vastly different from the stuff I've known to expect from him, and goes to show just how much artists can change over time. Besides this release, he also had Terra Cassette, or what I refer to as New World Adept, due to it being on the front cover, though I have also been told that he puts that on a lot of his albums. Either way, it's called Terra Cassette. Besides these, and many others, his more well-known opus, Devastating Sorrow, is probably a great start to use as an example. Currently, at the time of writing this, it has 1.4 million views on the Vaporwave YouTube channel Vapor Memory, and needs no introduction. As of the writing of this, November 4th, 2023, he has released roughly around 79 releases, and it doesn't look like he will cease anytime soon. Andre was and still is very prolific, probably due to his extreme musical talent, and of course the more obvious fact that all of the music was stolen and curated from other artists, or plundered, as he refers to it. He also states that he takes some credit as he tends to add something or edit the samples in some way, giving the track a haircut, so to speak. Andre's album artwork is another major note. popularizing and influencing a unique style and aesthetic. I would even argue that it's some of the greatest album art ever created, and it would go on to influence many other artists. But that's a story for later. Originally, I wanted to reach out to Andre and interview him about his journey as an artist, but sadly, he was clearly not interested. He is entitled to his decision, and I'm sure he has his reasons. Regardless, Andre, your role in this documentary is rudimental and cannot be overlooked. So I apologize in advance if anything is incorrect, but you can't complain if you neglect to comment. Haircuts for Men continued making a name for themselves and releasing some groundbreaking releases within the Vaporwave scene. And his style was simply unique and progressive compared to a lot of his contemporaries. It would not be inappropriate to say that he was a pivotal figurehead in its development and its progression, sampling things like lounge, 90s trip-hop and down-tempo, smooth jazz, world beat, and even video game soundtracks, whereas most other Vaporwave artists were only really touching upon smooth jazz, 80s hits, and elevator-styled music. He was the definition of a pioneer when it came to developing his established sound. Besides the music end of things, Andre is also somewhat of a polarizing and even controversial figure. Some might say even a pariah in the Vaporwave scene, though I actually disagree. I've just heard that. I don't really find him to be much of a pariah. Due to his often obscene and dark humor and related social media posts, there are some who are not big fans of his. I couldn't care less about this personally. In the end, all that matters to me is the art that he creates. The act of separating the art from the artist is something I've learned to do, and that is the best way to approach it if you want to enjoy some of the incredible works that exist in this world. With Andre's success as Haircuts for Men, it was only a matter of time before other people inspired by him would make themselves known, culminating within various scenes and corners of the internet. It was becoming a collective genre, and pretty soon this genre needed a name. A name that would be coined not by Andre, but by the label Allo City Records. It would come to be known as Barber Beats. Nothing of any note or value comes without a bit of controversy. Barber Beats is no exception. With the dawn of this subgenre came some backlash and ridicule, especially from several Vaporwave artists. The vitriol was based in the fact that Barber Beats was very heavily based in sampling. What I find interesting is that Vaporwave itself would never have become what it is without having done that very same thing. Sure, you can use the excuse that many Vaporwave artists chop and distort their samples, and the goal is to create something completely new. But at the end of the day, it's still stolen music. You stole it, took it from someone else, most likely without permission, and then you edited it into something different. The ends don't always justify the means. So to get all up in arms about Barber Beats stealing and sampling is blatant, unbridled hypocrisy, whether you want to accept it or not. Also, I think it's important to mention that not all Vaporwave artists chop or edit samples. There has been a ton of lazy sampling since the genre's very beginnings, and not all Barber Beats artists lazily sample either. When I first began my project, Undersaken, I did a ton of chopping and editing of samples, and I know plenty of others who do it as well. This is important to keep in mind before making any rash judgments. You can't chastise an entire genre of artists. Many of them have done different ways of creating it. However, having said all this, Barber Beats is in itself just a subgenre of Vaporwave. Sometimes gatekeepers within established genres will set forth limitations on others who only want to experiment or make progress within them. Why they do this may vary, but I have a feeling it has something to do with the fear of losing their relevancy or their established positions. Maybe it could also be they want to preserve the sounds of the genre. Whatever the case may be, music and all other art must have its freedom to grow and develop, or eventually it will stagnate and become nothing more than a repetitive motion, going nowhere. But we will definitely discuss this more in length later in this feature. Another thing I'd like to mention before carrying on is, despite being the harbinger of the genre, Haircuts for Men doesn't really ascribe to it. Maybe this is due to the fact that it's based on his own signature style and feels like others are ripping him off in some way, but I find that pretty ironic due to his creative process that relies heavily on pilfering original works from other artists. If this is the case, Andre, if you're watching this, which I doubt you are, but if you are, I highly recommend you reconsider your point of view and its fallacies. Instead, I think you should really be proud to have inspired others as an artist, and inspiring others is a massive milestone and achievement in itself. Whether you choose to look at it that way or not, or to put it more bluntly, it's not all about you. Now let's carry on with the inception of Barber Beats. The beginning of the genre, apart from Haircuts for Men, would begin with the artists Macroblank, Monodrone, Darkness, Rombreaker, Dark Desire, Oscob, and Oblique Occasions. There are others, such as Olympius, which apparently is just male alchemy, Messiah, and of course, From Tokyo to Honolulu. Thanks to Rombreaker and Cardian Matsu of the Barber Beats Hangout Discord for their info on the missing link of Barber that I would have otherwise overlooked. From my own research and knowledge, however, the aforementioned 7 were among the dawning of the genre, besides Haircuts for Men, of course. Macroblank would go on to become the most renowned and influential barber beater, with their album Missing reaching 1.8 million views on their personal YouTube channel, beating Haircuts for Men's 1.4 million on Devastating Sorrow that I mentioned earlier. I'm sure the magnificent cover art featuring a Nazgul from the Lord of the Rings series was a major proponent in this, but of course the music was on a level of its own. Macro easily made a name for himself, and it was clear to see why. In my very humble opinion, Macro has some of the greatest production quality in the entire genre, which would only further his rise and success within the upper echelons. I use that term production very strongly too, as that is a huge part of the barber beats sound, as opposed to a lot of classic Vaporwave, which is usually low fidelity and even purposefully lower quality in its sounds. Most barber beats music focuses on a higher standard of care in its sound, a more opulent and modern approach, and that in itself would be one of the main reasons I really enjoy it. I also like the fact that I can listen to barber beats in public with its more easy listening and approachable sound, compared to most other forms of Vaporwave. There is a greater potential for a wider audience because of this. Now I'm going to fast forward to 2022 for a moment, and my own introduction to the genre. Macro's other release, and my first ever Barber Beats album, Tales of the Cypher, further cemented my fascinations with the genre, and I felt myself becoming obsessed in a very short amount of time. At this point, I wasn't even aware of Haircuts for Men, though I had heard the name, and I often wondered why the genre was called Barber Beats, and thus not long after that I made the connection. So it's clear to see that Chris, the head of Allo City Records, which Macro is also a part of, did Haircuts for Men a major solid by naming the genre in tribute to him. From there, I went nuts, delving into Bandcamp and downloading more Barber Beats artists, starting with more releases from Macro, then Monodrone, Darkness, Godspeed Sound, Oblique Occasions, Gods of Something, and of course, once I understood where the genre name came from, Haircuts for Men was also added to my collection. Before all of this, I had heard some of Dark Desire's work as well, but at the time I just thought it was Vaporwave. The other aforementioned artists of the inception, Rombreaker and Oscob, were not yet known to me, but now I listen to them as well, and thus my journey began. But 2022 was not actually when Barber Beats began. From what I can see, 2020 to 2022 was where the genre was beginning to take shape. Rombreaker was kind enough to give me the actual date that the term Barber Beats was coined. It was December 26, 2020 that Chris of Allo City Records would name it so. History in the making. And so with the beginning of 2021, many other new artists began to rise up and begin plundering, allowing Barber Beats to truly take off and not just be another one of those subgenres that dies off after a couple of months. Savant Shadow, Machina Pensant, Male Alchemy, Modest by Default, Permanent Zyme, I seriously still don't know how to say that properly, Human Jackass, now under the moniker Moore's Anima, Telenites, Manicures, also known as Message Me Later, Nocturnal Hotline, Heaven Silhouettes, which I guess is also Machina Pensant, and the now defunct Gods of Something. These would be among the first wave of Barber Beats artists besides the ones I listed earlier, who I consider as the inception. There might be more, but these are the ones that I'm aware of. Now, I'd like to add some interviews that I've gathered from some of the artists of the inception and first wave, starting with Rombreaker, then Dark Desire, and finishing off with Savant Shadow.
Hello, this is Rombreaker, and these are my answers to Undersaken's questions for his Barber Beats documentary. I bought a new mic, so I can make use of it now. How did you discover Barber Beats, and what made you want to contribute to the genre? Did any particular artist inspire you? Right, so firstly, I have discovered Vaporwave around December of 2016. I will go in detail later how I discovered it. I listened to a few artists. I made like a playlist on YouTube that I don't have anymore. I used to listen to that same playlist all the time. And later I would find Haircuts for Men. The first Haircuts for Men song I ever found was called 7 Minutes Until Midnight. It was uploaded by DMT tapes on YouTube, and later I would find Marvel Fantasy and all these other albums. And in late 2017 I made my first Vaporwave album, called At the Beach Tonight. But I always wanted to make like a Haircuts for Men style album, but I didn't know how to do it. My fifth album was an attempt at that kind of style. It's called Dream Garden. Believe it or not, I actually made the entire album in Audacity, and it's like mostly original, but it's not that good. And then later in 2018 I made Sorrow EP, which is my first real quote-unquote Barber Beats album. 2019 was when I guess transitioned to this kind of music. I made a lot more of these kinds of albums. Back then there wasn't like a name for it, I just called it Haircuts for Men style Vaporwave. But then in 2020 I discovered artists like Darkness, Macroblank, Oblique Occasions, Jaded Luxuries, who is now Monodrone, Male Alchemy, and Olympias. And I was like, oh, that's so cool, more people enjoy this kind of music. I can finally listen to more of this kind of music, because Haircuts for Men didn't release that much music. And later we would all create our own Discord, and the rest is history. I am now a resident on the label Allo City World. And at the time of this recording, the next Barber Night is coming up, which is a live show for, but not restricted to, Barber Beats, hosted by Allo City World. Macroblank, Pizza Hotline, Iyoto, Oskop, and I will be performing in London, and hopefully in other countries in the future too. Let's move on to the next question. You're known as a Barber Beats artist who makes original music. What led you to wanting to go down this path? I always want to push things, I want to innovate, I want to try new things that people like haven't done before. Like my Breaking Bad album, Felina, no one has done that before. And my album, Do You Believe, which is based on aliens, UFOs, all those conspiracies. And in general, I wanted to have more knowledge on how music is created, how it works, you know, keys, time signatures, rhythm, whatever. And to this day I still don't know a lot of music theory, but I get by. I make bangers, I think. I create all of my album covers myself as well. I was in graphic design school, so that helped me a bit. We use Adobe programs, but I use Affinity Photo, which is like Photoshop, but you only have to pay for it once. I think Do You Believe is by far my best album cover. It's just really filled to the brim with a lot of details, textures, and photos I pulled from Pinterest, which is what a lot of Barber Beats artists do. We use Pinterest, maybe Instagram, maybe some other obscure sources, and transform those photos, art pieces, just whatever comes to our head. Back to the topic of creating my own music. I also just wanted to own my own music. To me, it just feels good to know that I have accomplished these things, that I have created these tracks, and then looking back at them. And I guess just looking for samples just got kind of tiring for me. By creating my own music, I can just make whatever I want, you know, whatever fits the theme of the album I'm going for. And it also allows me to make other music. I'm also a Super Mario World ROM hacker, which is where my name ROMbreaker comes from. And on my current project I'm composing my own soundtrack, which will be used in the hack. All of this actually comes full circle because the way I discovered Vaporwave was through a Mario World ROM hack. It's called VLDC 9, or the 9th annual vanilla level design contest, and the overworld map where all the, I guess, abstract entries for the contest ended up was Vaporwave themed, with a Vaporwave song that was made for this hack. It's called VLDC 9 Abstract Map, or Can You Feel? So that was my first exposure to Vaporwave. Next question. What are some of your musical influences? Could be a specific genre or artist. List up to 5 or at least 1 or 2. I'll be honest with you, I don't listen to anything else other than Barber Beats. I was never really into that much music before I found Vaporwave. So yeah. So obviously Haircuts for Men, Macroblank, Oblique Occasions, and whatever goes on in my head. Those are just my inspirations, I guess. What are your thoughts and how do you personally feel about the stigma around sample-heavy music? I've said this before on Twitter. I don't really care. I mostly remain neutral to a lot of things, even though I sort of interact with drama, but not really. But I mostly remain neutral and just watch. But yeah, I don't. As long as it sounds good, I like it. It doesn't really matter to me how sample heavy it is. And I say this as someone who makes original music. What do you think about the artists who make money off of their sampled and plundered works? Once again, none of my business. I remain neutral. However, I will say that a lot of the original lounge artists that Barber Beaters sample do actually get paid, because when a Barber Beats album gets uploaded to YouTube, the original songs get claimed, and so they get all the money. So, problem solved. At least, that's how I think it works. Once again, none of my business. I remain neutral. Would you or have you ever considered doing sample-based music again? I have thought about it. I do kinda miss it, but at the same time, I like making my own music more. I tried it a few times and wasn't really satisfied with the results. Making original music is obviously harder than sampling. I can only get out like 4 albums a year, and all the other artists release an album like every month. I do kinda wish I worked faster, but that's just how it is by design. So, those are all the questions answered. Thank you for having me, and I wish you good luck on this documentary.
Thanks a lot, Rombreaker, for being a part of this. I really appreciate it. Now, we'll move on to Dark Desire's interview. This is a text-based interview, so I won't really be talking very much at all, but I will be playing one of his tracks, like I did with Rombreaker, so that way you actually have something to listen to while reading his interview. Next up, Savant Shadow. Once again, thank you very much to Rombreaker, Dark Desire, and Savant Shadow for your interviews. This concludes part 1 of the documentary. Thank you for watching.
Notice the barber beetle in its natural habitat. Right here, we see it trying to attract a mate by slowing down music and applying reverb.
Barber beats continued to grow and develop. Many other new artists began to join in the fray. Artists like Godspeed Sound, Gore, Snowpoint Lounge, Slower Pace, Manila Ice, now Giovanni Scorpio, Opal Vessel, Mabis Yo, Memoria Occulta, May Kretsch, Esotericism, Pyroglyphics, Eliminate, Dudette Division, Obsidian Diction, Kataskopos, I don't know if I said that properly, but you get it. Digital Jockey, Telehealth, Middle Management, Mail, Vanitas, Polundra, Midnight Premiere, Alexandra, Kratzwerk, Sinners Club, Anosmia, Vintash, Sky is Stumbling, Requiem, Supercuts, Maid Dresses, and Your Discovery. Again, there are undoubtedly more, but these are the ones that are known to me. Many of these artists would come to be known to the masses through a YouTube channel called Rabbit Hole Club, which, without having existed in the first place, I truly believe that Barber Beats would not exist as it is today. There are several other outlets, but I'm going to mostly be focusing on Rabbit Hole Club, as that was my introduction to many of the artists that are well known now in the scene. Rabbit Hole Club would also be my ticket into the genre, and if it weren't for them, I don't think I would be very well known either. I'd like to talk a little bit about my own project, Undersaken. And I know what you're thinking. You're going to interview yourself? Really, dude? To which I will say, yeah, why not? I'm a part of this contemporary movement. Why wouldn't I? I have things to talk about from my own perspectives as well. Between the many people in the Vaporwave scene, whether it be on Twitter or Reddit, constantly whining and griping about Barber Beats, spouting off about how it's simply just plagiarism and petty thievery, or gods of something's occasional meltdowns, there is obviously a huge stigma and toxicity surrounding the genre because of its heavy use of sampling. Besides all that nonsense, I want to try and encapsulate what it is truly that makes me want to create this genre, why I actually think it's extremely meaningful, and why I think it transcends other forms of artistic expression. Picture yourself surfing the vast open net, the many horizons of all the things that ever were, searching through an endless, infinite plane of existence for that perfect sample, or that captivating image, tirelessly and patiently awaiting that moment of blissful satisfaction, that sweet release, that moment where you yourself feel a thrilling spark or shock of inspiration rushing over you. The unexpected, fleeting glimpse of true euphoria, or hearing a track that awakens you and makes you feel glad to be alive. You feel shivers, good shivers. You feel great, the dopamine, the serotonin. But more importantly, the pain. It dissipates, even for a moment, the pain of being alive, and the solace you get from that sweet release from it, taking over your mind and your body, making you forget the monotony of society and everyday life. I'm sure we all have different takes on it, but the experience of art, the true essence of what it does to us, and how it affects our lives, that is unabashedly one of the most powerful parts of being human. I want to share that. I want others to have that feeling. I want everyone to experience what I experience, even if it's not exactly the same experience to them, or even if it doesn't resonate with them. I just want to see if others will appreciate the experience like I do. And I'm telling you right now, when they do, when they connect with me on that level, that's why I do it. And maybe you don't understand what I'm trying to say, and that's alright. I don't need you to understand anything at all, except that I definitely don't do this for credit, profit, or any other malicious reason. I do it to express myself, and I do it for those wonderful feelings that I mentioned, and I do it to connect with people. That's it. That's why I love Barber Beats. That's why I make Barber Beats. Now, besides my cringy self-insert, I have some other excellent artists who will share their viewpoints as well. I hope you enjoy. First up are three of my biggest influences: Godspeed Sound, Gore, and Snowpoint Lounge, followed by some other artists who have also inspired me: Hieroglyphics, Mabisio, and Esotericism. Once again, I won't be reading out these interviews, they're all text-based, but I'll be playing their respective tracks to accompany their interviews. Thank you very much to Godspeed Sound, Gore, Snowpoint Lounge, Pyroglyphics, Mabis Yo, and Esotericism for your interviews. This concludes part 2 of the documentary. Thank you for watching. Barber Beats was truly at a tipping point now, with many new talented artists making themselves known. It would further continue to grow and expand, many adding their own original takes of progression to it. Though, as seen in some of the interviews, it was becoming clear that the genre was also reaching a point of stagnation, and in order for it to continue, it needed to maintain its momentum of developing and furthering its approach when it came to its presentation. Inevitably, Barber Beats artists continued to pop up from all over the internet, and at a consistent rate. The genre was by no means dead, which oddly enough, I had seen many people say. I'd argue that Barber Beats has seen one of the greatest growths of almost any vaporwave subgenre, and I am always very excited to check out the new artists coming up in the scene. Majestic 12, Hozoka, Morose, Roboticoder, Time Fragment, Global Chill, Wraithbot, Magdalene, Magic, Skin Dance, Wall of Tarot, Known Artiste, Multi Dream, Lost Colossus, Dirty River, City of Feelings, Guild Merchant, Groove Paradise, and At Hemp. I have also created a few other projects, Sylph Skyline, and Lawful Chaotic. Now, I have seen many, and I mean truly many, others pop up, and as much as it makes me happy that the genre is growing, I also think that it's starting to reach the tipping points of oversaturation, possibly due to its low barrier of entry. Either way, these artists I have listed off are definitely worth checking out, and I am happy to see that many of them are expanding upon, diversifying, and pushing towards real progression within the genre.
Hey there, this is Andrew Drake from Celadon Plaza, and I'm excited to be answering some questions for the Barber Beats documentary from Undersaken. A big thanks to Undersaken for inviting me to be a part of this. It's going to be a lot of fun, so let's get going. So first question, what got me into working on physicals for Barber Beats? So a bit of a long answer. I started Celadon Plaza in 2021, and at the time, it was just a website and sort of a archive or catalog for all the physical releases that were happening throughout the scene. I've been a fan of Vaporwave for my entire adult life and even back into my teenage years, and honestly, I wasn't really into the physical side of it until later, mostly because it was just so daunting by the time that I got into it, with there being releases on multiple different labels from multiple different artists. It's a bit overwhelming, right? So I created the site to try and archive and highlight some of my favorite ones so that it wasn't as daunting for people to kind of get started and experience how awesome physical Vaporwave was. So after running that for about a year, it took a massive toll on my time. It was a single-man operation. Celadon Plaza still is to this day. And I basically decided that a better way to give back to a lot of these artists who I was trying to highlight was to actually give them physical releases. At that point, I realized I understood how the label scene operated in Vaporwave, that the entry barrier was rather low, and it still is, and that I had a pretty good understanding of what it took to run a successful label. So I decided to launch in 2022, in April of that year, with our first physical, and it was a Barber Beats physical. It was Virtual Pleasures, Indoor Haircut Tape Edition. Still one of my favorite albums to this date, and a massive shout out and thank you to Virtual Pleasure for trusting me with that release, because at that point, I had never done one, and he completely trusted me with it. We had a great time, and from there, I've been overwhelmed with the support and the love that Celadon Plaza has had over the past almost 2 years now. We've been going nonstop since that April, at least one release a month. In about March of this year, we switched to have 2 every month, and we're even in the vinyl scene now. And I think that is a long answer, but to just kind of boil it down into one little bit, what got me into working on physicals for specifically the Barber Beat scene, as I'd say about 60 to 70% of what we release is that subgenre, is just that I love it so much. I have been around Vaporwave for a long time, and I have not seen a subgenre embody just the true ideals and feel of early vaporwave like Barber beats. And that's really in a couple main ways. First and foremost, the entry barrier to make Barber beats. It's so low. It's so absolutely low, and that's why you have so many of these artists popping up and making great new stuff. So, some people are going to make the argument that it's low effort and it takes no time and no skill to do, but honestly, it doesn't matter, right? Because the early stuff that came out in Vaporwave was the same way. It didn't take a lot of effort. It was irrelevant. It was how it made you feel. And that's what I think is so cool about Barber beats, right? The entry barrier is so low, and it doesn't matter how much effort they're putting into these creations. The fact that they can then link them to a different associated aesthetic, make you feel a different way about sampled, slowed down lounge music, it's incredible to me. And honestly, it's something that I don't foresee myself ever not being in love with. I absolutely love everything about Barber beats, and I will continue to make physicals of them until I die or until something happens that I can't operate the label anymore, because I believe so strongly in preserving this scene physically. So second question, what do I think of the genre itself? I mean, I think I answered this a little bit in my last one, but I really do love Barber beats. And I love Vaporwave as a whole. I think it is an absolutely phenomenal genre, and I like to tell people, and I've said this in interviews before, I'm not really a music fan, I'm more of a Vaporwave fan. It's really all I listen to in the car, when I'm working out, whatever it may be. It's just Vaporwave, and it's been that way almost my whole life. There's something about it that just gives me a feeling that nothing else in this life has. And that might sound a little dramatic, but it's just true. I love this music. I'm really passionate about it. Barber beats in general, it's also taken over a lot of what I'm listening to. A lot of it is also keeping up with the releases to make sure that I can reach out to these artists and give them the proper physical preservation of their albums that they deserve. But at the same time, it's something that I do out of love. It's never a job for me. This subgenre in particular has captured the world of Vaporwave and really the world of online music in a way that I haven't seen with any other subgenre, right? We've seen Future Funk, we've seen Molotov, we've seen them kind of come onto the scene, be really popular, and then sort of die down and still have their followers, both of which, by the way, I'm still huge fans of. But with Barber beats, you have this phenomenon where these videos are racking up hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube. You have people watching these, vibing with them, loving them, and they don't even know what Vaporwave is. This is absolutely transcending Vaporwave. I think that has to do with not only the super accessible nature of the music, anyone can throw this on and be like, yeah, I understand why someone would like this. It's super chill, right? But at the same time, associated aesthetics. They have been so important throughout the history of Vaporwave, and especially in Barber beats. The associated aesthetics that people have adapted them, of course, the original stuff, if you go back to Haircuts for Men, that really kind of permeated the scene and still does for the most part, in terms of what the aesthetics are being themed and sampled after. But at the same time, you have so many new artists who have assigned different associated aesthetics to this Barber beats music, and it's allowing them to transport listeners to entire new worlds. I mean, just off the top of my head, you have Modest by Default, whose really powerful, challenging imagery is just unbelievable, and the decision to pair that with sampled lounge music, in my opinion, is just absolutely genius, because you have two things that are so unbelievably unalike, and pairing them together, it's like a match made in heaven. It is absolutely astounding what that project has been able to do, and I've been very fortunate to work with them multiple times and continue to, and I'm very grateful for the trust they've put in me in preserving their unbelievable art, right? Another example to mention, we have this kind of permeation of anime, of various, manga panels, various anime scenes that kind of seem to be taking over another sphere of Barber beats, and that's really cool as well, because there's obviously mass appeal with that, and to partner that with these chill, relaxing lounge beats, right? That's really cool. You have people like, you have Mabisso, right? You have Snowpoint Lounge, you have, Undersaken, right? I mean, we have all these amazing artists who are doing this. You got Gore, who's doing a lot of stuff as well in that sphere, and just unbelievable art that's happening from people like him, from Dark Desire, from Godspeed, who are kind of taking that original aesthetic and then just making it their own. And one of the most impressive things I think about the subgenre is that a lot of these people seem to be visual artists before actual musical artists, and that is so cool to me. The fact that you create the visual art and then you sample around to make sounds that fit that, I've never seen anything else like it, honestly, and it's incredible, and I think it's a really unique aspect of the subgenre. And it's really cool to see the associated aesthetic aspect of it evolve. Yeah, and then the final question, where do I see the genre going in the distant future, right? I mean, I think sky's the limit for Barber Beats. I really do. I mentioned earlier in the interview that its permeation of YouTube and its kind of ability to ride the algorithm to this mass appeal, especially on that platform, I think it does wonders. I think it also causes a little bit of concern as well, right? So let's start with the positive side. You have hundreds of thousands of people viewing Barber Beats albums, these amazing aesthetics, these awesome chill beats, right? And you get more and more attention drawn to them, right? You got more attention drawn to these artists, more support coming their way, more of a demand for physical releases of them. And I think that's really good for Vaporwave as a whole. I think there's still a little bit of a stigma around Vaporwave, that it is kind of a joke. I think a lot of people don't really understand that it's not a joke to thousands of people. So I think that's good. I think that it being connected to Vaporwave allows people kind of a backdoor entry into the genre. Maybe they branch out from there, explore some classics, explore some stuff that's been going on the past, 5-7 years that maybe they wouldn't have otherwise. But, there's negative aspects with that as well. And I think the obvious one, first and foremost, is copyright, right? I mean, the biggest thing with this is that the effort is irrelevant. So we're going to have a lot of pretty blatant copyright violations and samples in a lot of these musics. We obviously do. And that creates concern because the bigger that this gets, the harder it's going to be to continue to do that. I mean, it seems like every corner we have now, someone trying to enforce some sort of outdated, obsolete copyright law to take away this ability to express art in this way. I think first and foremost, you have YouTube's content ID system just telling you what the samples are on these videos when you post them. In some cases, even blocking the videos and getting them taken down if the original artists are not okay with that. You have pressing plants that are now implementing insane content ID checks. You have to essentially pass a YouTube content ID check in order to get your stuff pressed onto vinyl. And that's honestly a huge problem for the physical Barber Beats and Vaporwave scene in general. There's been multiple labels, myself included, who I've talked to over the past couple months that significant delays have been caused because of that very reason. You have all these orders ready to go and ready to press. They implement this new content ID system, and guess what? They're all canceled. They're not being pressed anymore because they think it's too risky. And then the final thing has to be Bandcamp and the direction it's going. Bandcamp's always been a little bit of a safe haven for Vaporwave. It's kind of always existed there throughout the past, 9 to 10 years, if you want to say that. And I know a lot of people are a little concerned with the new owners, with its ownership switching so many times over the past couple months and them talking about implementing a content ID system of their own. I think it's a little concerning. I think proper steps need to be taken. I know myself, I've opened up my web shop and I'm trying to get more attention drawn to the website versus Bandcamp. I know a lot of other labels are doing that as well. But at the end of the day, I think we need to realize how much money Vaporwave makes Bandcamp. Like, if you actually look at some of these releases and how they are selling on the bigger labels, there is no way that Bandcamp can 100% ban sampled music or Vaporwave at all, because they would lose so much money. And at the end of the day, that is what it's all about for Bandcamp. Do not get anything wrong. They do not care about you. They do not care about small artists. They care about making money. And one of the biggest things that makes them money on the platform is Vaporwave, whether they like it or not. So they can say they're going to be really hardcore on copyright and they're going to implement these content ID systems. I'm not going to buy it until it actually happens, because they are not going to do anything that drastically hurts their profits, end of the day. Going back then just to Barber Beats in the future, I really do think sky's the limit. I think we're going to see artists continuing to experiment with crazy associated aesthetics that take the themes of these albums even further and higher. I don't think that there's going to be any sort of stop or slowdown. At this point, we have so many artists. I would argue that there's more active Barber Beats artists than there are Vaporwave artists in general, right? Like, you can count on your couple hands how many active Future Funk producers you have, how many active Mallsoft or classic Vaporwave producers you have. And by the way, there's a lot of them out there that are doing fantastic work, right? But it's just a matter of, it's in right now. It is super popular, and I don't really think it's going anywhere. I think it has the ability to stand the test of time, at least for, the next 10 years or so, because of its accessibility, because of its low entry barrier, and honestly, because of its super mass appeal to people who really don't even know what Vaporwave is. So that's all I got for my answers for the documentary. I hope that was helpful. and I hope this will be able to be useful. Like I said, I really do love this genre. I love what's going on. I love talking about it, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
A big thank you to Celadon Plaza for your interviews. Once again, greatly appreciated. Now, I have more interviews, and as before, I will play their respective tracks to accompany their interview so you have something to listen to while you read them. Thank you very much to Majestic 12, Hozoka, Non Artiste, Time Fragment. Now, I have one last thing left to say about Barber Beats before I go. There is a strong force of potential in this genre, from the many who contribute their favorite music to. It's truly a collaborative work. It all comes together to form a grand coalescence of inspiration. Instead of just one or a few artists making music, it's music standing on its own, and in preference of curators who want to share their favorite pieces. Because of this, the strength and ability of expression, I believe, becomes more powerful overall. Some might disagree, and that is fine. It's just an opinion. But I truly believe there is something special with this genre, and I'm very excited to see where it might lead us as the future continues to trudge along. One day, and I've said this before, I think that most music will literally just be samples of samples. In some situations, that is already the case. Is this good? Is this bad? I think more importantly, we should ask ourselves individually, what purpose does it serve? Real connection. The end of music as we know it has been long in due course, and I believe that Barbergeddon is what music really needs right now, in this day and age. The beginning of the end. Alpha and Omega. Thank you for watching.